Welcome to the Overflow Worship Podcast, where we serve and support leaders so you can serve and support your local church.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Overflow Worship Podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Olson. And I gotta say, I think 2022 has been the year of the best interviews. I have gotten to interview some incredible people, and today is no different. So we are going to dive right in. You're going to love to hear from my guests today. So today with me on the podcast, joining me from Atlanta, is Victory House Worship, and they are a ministry of Victory Church in Atlanta, Georgia, like I said up at the top. And so I'm just going to let them tell you about themselves. So I have Danielle and Corey and Jamal from their team ready to share with you today. So welcome to the podcast, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So one of you want to kick us off and just tell us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about the ministry of Victory House Worship.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you again so much for having us. It's definitely a pleasure and an honor to be able to come on here and share about our little ministry here. As you said, we are Victory House Worship. We are only, as Victory House Worship, only about a year and some change old, maybe about a year and a half old. And like I said, we all serve at Victory Church in Atlanta. And it's just honestly been Victory House's worship desire to just be able to create and distribute music, from the heart of our church. And our church is very diverse, so a very diverse sound, a very inclusive sound, and a sound that is palatable for worship houses that are huge and, gatherings that are really, really small. Our whole goal is to be able to take the sound of our house, of our worship, to houses all across the world. And so that's what we try to do.
Wow, that's incredible. I love that. I was listening to your song, You Want It All, Heaven's Champion, before we hopped on this call. And I was just ready to jump up and join in because it's powerful. The lyrics are just so powerful and strong and declaring, who God is. And so I haven't gotten to listen to the whole album, but that one in particular was just incredible. So tell me a little bit, about what it has looked like for you in forming this collective. And you talked right at the top about this is who we are. This is who this is what our goal is. So how did that come to be? How did that happen?
Well, so just to give a little backstory, our music label, Victory World Music, was created in 2011 by Montel Jordan. This is how we do it. Yes. Yes, that Montel Jordan. He is a pastor, or was an executive pastor here. And after he came out of the R&B world, he joined Victory, and he still had a heart to be able to share music throughout the world. And so he created Victory World Music. And in 2011, they created an awesome album called Shake Heaven. It was a great project for that time. But up until we released the Victory House Worship record, that was the last live record that the church had released. So 10 years ago. And so when we started, when it was put on me and Danielle to kind of start dreaming about what the new era of, Victory World Music could look like, we really started looking at the landscape of our current church. It's 144 different nations, represented at our church. And we see it on our platforms and in our congregation every single week on our campuses. And so it was really laid upon me to be able to recreate that. The first time that I walked into Victory in 2015, I remember I was just blown away because I walked into the campus and I just heard this incredible sound and saw this incredible view of so many different people from so many different backgrounds, like going hard. I mean, like going in, for it. And then, they were singing like, a common, Hillsong or Bethel, something, common, but it sounded totally different.
Wow.
And I couldn't figure out why. And then once I looked on the platform, it's because, oh, you have this Brazilian influenced drummer on the drums and this, African-American soulful keyboardist on the keys. And then these guitar players that are kind of bluegrassy and just this melting pot of different cultures coming together to worship God. And you couldn't help but get something different, even if it was from a song that was common. And from that moment, I was like, we got to figure out how to share this, because this is special. And so that's what Victory House Worship set out to do, just to be able to, share the uniqueness of our body. And it really reminds me of the scriptures in Romans 5 that talks about every tribe, every language, every people from every nation coming together, to worship God. And when you have that many different people, that many different languages and nationalities represented, I mean, that's just heaven. And so that's what we just strive to do, not to say that, our church is heaven, but to me, that is the picture. That is the picture of so many different people from so many different backgrounds coming together in one unique sound of holy. And that's what we have strived to do.
Wow, that's incredible. And I was like right there in it with you. I knew exactly what you meant. Like, it's like what heaven is going to be like, That's just incredible. Wow. I love that. That's so powerful. So Danielle, what has that been like for you being along on this journey too, and how you've been a part of this, like trying to collaborate and create this collective? Tell me a little bit about that from your perspective too.
It's been a lot of fun for us. Again, this is the first project we've done in a long time. So our staff team is super diverse as well. So us getting to write these songs together, when we started thinking about creating this record, we were like, what's resonating with our church right now? Like, what is the heartbeat of our church, and how can we write songs that we know that our people love to sing? Because that's the goal as worship leaders. Like, it's for everybody, but it's for us as worshipers, and the people that are closest to us are the ones that we know, their heartbeat, their struggles, their highs, their lows, their mountains, their valleys, all of those things. And to be able to write from that perspective and give us as a congregation something to go in to battle together and worship and praise God together, and has just been really incredible.
Wow. That's beautiful. I love that. And that's, I love that because anytime I get to talk with a different church, a different leadership team through the various ministry of Overflow Worship, and they come to me and they say, we want to start writing music, but we don't know where to start. It's like exactly what you're saying. It's like, just listen to the prayers of your people, and that's what we're doing when we write songs. We're penning the prayers of our people, or penning the gratitude of our people that, or the things that they're facing, the things that they're praising God for. And I love how you guys have come together with that purpose. And it is, for you guys, it is impacting the world. You have this global church, which is incredible. And I would love to, so has your church been, you said it's made up of 144 different nations. Was it like that pre-COVID? Was it, or did it grow in that way in the last few years?
No, it's, so Victory is 32 years old.
32.
Yeah. Pastor Dennis and Colleen Rouse started the church in 1991, I believe. If I'm wrong, don't I hope I don't get in trouble. But no, they're Pastor Dennis has shared his testimony several times about just driving around Atlanta and God planting him in Norcross, and in the early 90s, Norcross, if I can just be blunt, was predominantly white. It was very Caucasian, but somewhere in the after the Olympics in 2006, people started moving further out, and Norcross began to get very diverse. And I remember Pastor Dennis saying he was at this place where he was like, okay, I can choose to shift with the crowd, or I can stay planted right here. And he said God told him to stay right there. So Norcross just kind of became this hub of so many different types of people, Hispanics, Africans, Caribbeans, from just everywhere. And you had this church that was planted right there in the middle, and people were just drawn to that ministry. So it happened very organically, and it was all just by, our founding pastors just listening to God and staying put.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'll add, one of the pillars of our church is racial reconciliation. So it's coming alongside all different cultures and all different people of all different shades, and just what reconciliation can actually look like as the body of Christ, and becoming family with one another. It's been really incredible.
Wow, that is incredible. Wow. It sounds like God has been and is doing incredible things through the ministry of Victory Church, but also this Victory House Worship and this kind of newer thing, this newer collective that you guys are working on, and I just think it's so wonderful. So Jamal, tell us a little bit about your role in the church. I know you said you're all on staff and your role with Victory House Worship. I'd love to hear that from you.
So I work at the Midtown location of Victory Church, and I'm the worship pastor here. By some stroke of God's grace and a miracle and a half, I'm here holding down this position. Mm-hmm. And it's been an incredible journey, just kind of seeing where we have come from the time that I started here about 3 years ago to where we are now, being able to write music, like we said earlier, that touches so many different cultures and so many different generations even, and just being able to be a part of it. And the song that I sing on the Victory House Worship project is a song called Good, and it really speaks to the testimony of me even being here, because the song is really talking about, like, God, I don't know what you're doing, but I know that it's going to be good, because I believe that all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord and are called according to his purposes for them. And just being able to see the way that God has unfolded every single thing, even my own personal heart's desires for writing music, and to be able to do ministry, and to see the way that it's been able to unfold, to be able to do music in a place that I love with people that I love. And now it's being a blessing to people within our church and those who are outside our church. So I'm on cloud 24.
That's amazing. Wow. Before we get to the rest of today's episode, I want to invite you to the Overflow Worship Conference on October 7th and 8th in Wilmer, Minnesota. This event is for worship leaders and the entire worship team. And guess what? Tickets are on sale. You can get them at overflowworship.com. Here's the deal. We always have an incredible list of speakers and artists that join us, and this year will not disappoint. I want to tell you about one of them. I've invited my vocal coach, Jan Smith, to come up and provide lots of training for our vocalists. We really wanted to give you some love, so she is going to dive in deep and offer sessions all day for our vocalists, and you will walk away changed. I guarantee you that. I've learned more about my voice in my time with Jan than I have in my entire life, and she truly cares about the wellness and well-being of the people that she works with, and she loves the church and loves pouring into leaders of the church. And I tell you what, if you listen to the radio, you're listening to one of her clients, because she is a world-renowned vocal coach who has trained some of the best, including a lot of the wonderful people who are delivering worship music to the church right now in our time. So get ready, get your team there, and get ready to be encouraged. Jan is one of many speakers and artists joining us this year. Overflow Worship Conference, October 7th and 8th in Wilmer, Minnesota. Get your tickets at overflowworship.com. So I would love to talk a little bit today about core values. You know, it's really clear to me that you guys know who you are and where you're headed, and kind of the mission, vision, values of your team, of your church. And anytime I talk with a church or a worship leader or a leadership team, that's one of the things we always talk about. So I'm all about this 100%. So I would love to hear, let's talk about this a little bit. How do core values influence what we do? Tell me a little bit about what that's looked like for you guys as a ministry whole, and then now as Victory House Worship.
So as a ministry, I am the executive pastor of worship. So I oversee worship for all of our campuses. And we all understand that vision, mission, core values, they're incredibly important because they help direct where your team is headed, and they help ground the foundation of who you are. So as a worship team, our mission and our vision is that we say that, if you imagine yourself as a worship leader standing on a platform, we say that we connect with God, we connect with people, and we connect people to God. And that's what we're doing when we are worshiping. So if you can envision that, it's almost like this circular thing, this infinity motion of connection between us and the Lord, and hopefully leading people to their own path with the Lord as well. So that's our mission statement. Our core values as a worship team are, we call them the 5 C's here around. You gotta have something to hang.
Of course, yes.
And have everybody remember. So we've got our 5 C's. We say community is a core value of ours. If we're not connected with one another, if we don't know, if we aren't people first, what are we doing?
Right.
Who are we ministering to? And if we can't be open and vulnerable with one another and know what's going on in each other's lives, like, it's important. It's part of being a family. It's a part of supporting and pastoring one another. Shepherding people is community. So that's a big one for us. Our second core value is character. So all throughout the Bible is the character of Jesus, and scriptures of him leading us to become more and more like him. And that only shows itself in the way that we are with other people. So how does the character of Christ show up within us as a worship team, as individual people, as brothers and sisters of Christ? How do we treat one another? How do we elevate and encourage and champion one another? All of those kinds of things. Our third one is create. So Corey actually gave me this book a while back. What's it called?
Call to Create.
Call to Create. But it's all about how God was the first creator, and we are, as the one that created us, it just means that we are also created to create. So that's a big heart of ours, be it, melodies or lyrics or a worship collective group. It can be so many different things, but we believe that we are called to create. So that is a core value of ours. Our craft. So honing in on the craft and the skills that God has given you. So in worship world, it's going to be, your vocalists. It's going to be your musicians. It's going to be producers and engineers and songwriters. All of these things, like, all of us have a unique gifting that the Lord has given us. And we believe that it's important to hone in on those things and to grow. There's no ceiling on growth ever. I believe that hardcore. Yeah. There's no ceiling on growth until we get to go to heaven and see what perfection looks like. So we strive for excellence in our giftings and our craft. And then our final one is call. What is your calling? There's a lot of things that we can do in life. There's so many things that we could say yes to, but stopping and listening and hearing the voice of God, however it is that you hear him, what is he calling you to? What is he calling you towards? And focusing on that and making that a priority in your life. So those are our core values as a worship team, which are pretty cool. We love it.
Yeah.
Should add cool to that.
Cool.
There's the sixth one. We're cool. That's amazing.
I'm down with adding that extra C. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I would say go for it. That's amazing. So for people who are listening, they're wondering, like, well, those sound awesome. Maybe I'll just use those. Or like, how did they get those? How did they come to that decision? So do you guys want to walk through just like maybe a couple of steps or some thought processes behind how a team would go about creating their core values? Because it is it's very personal to the ministry. And so these are personal to yours. So how would they go about that?
So I'll tell you how we did it. I gathered our entire staff, so all of our worship pastors, staff MDs, and we word vomited on a big pad of paper. What do we think is important for our worship team? What do we think? What do we see the struggles are? Where do we want to see our team headed? And it was just open-ended, and everybody just listed out all of the things. And it's how do we address moral failures? How do we point our focus towards the Lord? How do we pastor and shepherd our teams? How do we, there's that could go on and on.
Yeah.
But we made a huge list. And then a few people, or more administrative people, took that list and kind of categorized everything. And then, over time, like, you start seeing a theme throughout the things that people list. So we kind of got it all down into 5 different groupings, and then we named them according to what those things were. So it was kind of a process of elimination and strategy of finding out, like, what do our people need? A, B, like, what is God calling us towards? Where is he leading us? Where is he directing us? And how do we infiltrate, always pointing people towards the Lord in our core values? So that was our strategy.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. So, so Jamal, how does that, for you when you're leading worship or leading the team, working with the team, how do those core values then shape what you do with your team? And the reason I ask is because I think sometimes for me, there's sometimes a disconnect. It's like we have these, but then where do they apply? Because we're not really talking about them other than in scenarios like this or with our leadership teams. It's not like we stand from the platform every week and we're like, remember the 5 C's, people, you know? So talk a little bit about what that looks like from an application standpoint with the team that you work with on a weekly basis.
So for us, well, and what I'm about to say doesn't just go for me and the campus that I'm at, but this is across all campuses. On any given Sunday, we have a structure on how we run things in between services, where we have a time that we have allotted for community, right after our 1:00 worship service, where we kind of come together and we do talk about what's going on in your life, or we may do SOAP, scripture, observation, application, and prayer. And we just kind of tap into each other's lives a little bit more to create that sense of community. But even outside of that, we're in connection with our teams when it's not a Sunday, because obviously if the only time you have that sense of community is on a Sunday, then you really don't know the person outside of what you experience when they're here. And so Sundays definitely give us the opportunity to dive more into those things. And in conversation, you hear about what's happening with character. You hear what's happening about, creativity, or, we're in community. So all of those things kind of play a part as we're in community. So I would say that community is kind of the foundation of all of the other 4 C's. Because that's when you kind of get to tap in and get creative in how you spend time with each other and learn more about each other, so that we know where you can grow as a team. And like any sports team, whatever, it's the way that you conduct yourself or the way that you play off court is what goes to the platform. And so if there's this connection and friendship and family and love and all of that, then it's translated in how we worship. And so it all plays out.
Wow. Yes, that is so good. And I love what you said at the very beginning too, about how this isn't only for your campus, this is across all of them. And that speaks to the intentionality behind this, right? Like your leadership team is very intentional, and all of you are very intentional to curate and craft your time together with your teams in a way that is run through that lens. It's like a filter. We got to filter everything through these 5 C's, and it does impact the decisions that you're making and makes for a stronger team. So I just think that is incredible. Anything else, Corey, that you want to add about the core values or how they influence what you do?
No, I think my role is just different, because I don't serve on a platform every week. My role is just running the label and heading up the kind of the production efforts of our team, the songwriting efforts of our team. But it still requires me to have to participate. It actually have to be a little bit more intentional, because I don't get that weekly, always check in, like knowing that I'm going to see my team on a stage or, on a Sunday morning. When they're up on platform on Sundays, I'm either in the lobby, or I'm in the seat with my wife and my kids, service. And so I've had to learn for myself personally in serving in a kind of behind the scenes way. And there may be people on different teams, who are listening to this podcast who may not be worship leaders or may not be, musicians, but definitely serve their worship teams, our administrative assistants or our worship coordinators, people who do a lot for our worship ministries, but do not touch a platform every week. We have to be a lot more intentional about those touches of call and community and craft and create, just because we don't get that assured weekly, we're going to share this platform together and worship together. So for me, I have to make sure that I'm checking in with Danielle and Jamal and the rest of our team, just to be like, what's up? Or, hosting something at my house where we can just kind of just hang out and just do life together. For me, those are the things that I'm passionate about. And it helps me stay connected to the vision of what we're doing and not just get, sidetracked by my own vision. And that can be a very easy thing. When you are serving in a way that's a little bit isolated from the rest of the team, it can become very easy to kind of just, hey, this is what God gave to me, so I'm going for it. So I have to be intentional about making sure that I stay plugged in with what the rest of our team is doing. And Danielle and the rest of our team do likewise with me. Hey, you okay? Just checking in. How do things sound this Sunday? It's all a very intentional effort to make sure that nobody kind of gets left out or left behind.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I love the intentionality behind that too, because it makes me think of, like some of the churches that I work with, they have, they're all volunteer, supported. Maybe they have one person on staff who is worship leading, but the rest of the people are volunteers, and they rotate different teams every week. And so there might be somebody who is on and then they're not on for like a month or 2 months. And there's always that tension, right? Of like, oh man, I haven't seen you in a really long time, or I haven't served with you in 2 months. How have you been? And so there's that, like you said, that intentionality of making sure that we also reach out and making sure that we're connecting and that it's reciprocating. So I think that's amazing. And
it's not easy to get everybody to stay intentional. Like you said, even though we have 11 people on our staff, we have a lot of volunteer, worship leaders throughout our campus. And we just had an event, a month ago, where we did like 3 weeks of like training, and community time for all of our campuses and all of our volunteers, just to continue to, promote the thought of stay connected. Just because you're not on a platform every week does not mean you're not important. Just because we don't see you all the time singing or playing does not mean that you aren't valued or valuable. So only way people know that they are valued are when they checked up on, that's what.
Wow.
It's about time to do something at your house though, Corey. Just putting it out there. So it's about time to do a little get together at your house.
Let's do it. And Andrea, you come too. Come on down from
Yeah.
Let's go.
I like Atlanta. I could do that.
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome. Oh, that's amazing. Well, that is powerful. And I think is a powerful way to wrap up our conversation today. Just reminding everybody that, it's important that we stay connected. It's important that we stay in community. And just because, like you said, Corey, just because you aren't on the platform every week doesn't mean you're not valued. And so for all of us, it's so important to remember. And so I just am so thankful to all three of you for being on the podcast today and for joining me for this conversation and sharing your hearts. I absolutely have loved personally learning more about your ministry, and I just love what you're doing and what you stand for. And I can't wait to go listen to the whole album. And you guys have some stuff coming out. So tell us before we end here, what's on the horizon and then where everybody can find you to get in touch with you.
Yeah, on the horizon. I can't give any release dates yet because I've learned from making that mistake in the past. But on the horizon, we do have some acoustic versions of the songs from the You Want It All album coming out, probably within the next 2 months for sure. It's part of our call as Victory House Worship to share the sound of our house with other houses of worship all around the world. So it doesn't matter if you are a stadium-sized church or a house church. We want to be able to create songs that are palatable for everybody. So the album itself was produced in a very kind of big anthemic type of way.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to take the guesswork out of the music for smaller, gatherings or smaller churches. And so doing these songs in an acoustic way that they can just kind of hear, oh, it's just a piano and an acoustic. Let's get it.
Yeah.
So that'll be coming out soon. And then this summer we are planning to release a Spanish EP with 3 of the songs from the album.
Wow, that is amazing. I cannot wait for that. I'll be anxiously awaiting as well, but I won't hold you to any release dates. I promise.
Thank you. It'll be there. Just not sure when.
It'll be coming.
And you can find us. You can find us on Instagram at Victory House Worship. We've got
YouTube.
Yep, YouTube.
Victory House Worship. All your streaming platforms. We are there. Trying to work on a TikTok. I'm trying to get Danielle to do some dances on TikTok.
I don't think so.
Do it.
I know. I feel the same way about TikTok. So
It is not my craft or calling, Corey.
yes, but is it cool? It kind of is. So
It is very cool.
It's cool. So we should create.
There you go.
Oh,
More
no.
community.
I just got you in trouble, Danielle. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea.
Yeah. All right. I'll do it if you do it.
Oh, challenge.
just
That could be
kidding.
the 7th C challenge.
Yeah, you will see me on TikTok, but you will see there's like 2 videos. And then I was like, I can't. I don't know. I can't. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being with me on the podcast today. I so appreciate it. And I pray blessings on you all and your ministry. And I can't wait to see what God has in store for what's ahead. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
You've been listening to the Overflow Worship Podcast. If you enjoy our podcast, please take a moment and leave us a 5-star rating and a written review, which helps us reach more people. New episodes are released every other Monday. So until next time, thank you for listening.